In this segment, we're going to look at the final section of the song, the outro solo, and break this down with a couple more exercises. But let's have a quick run through the section first just to demonstrate what we'll be talking about. So first things first, you'll notice that I didn't play one of the runs through the main theme as it comes in after the main solo section. This is due to the fact that it's an exact repeat of the first time we hear this theme at the beginning of the song. So as we've already looked at that in an earlier segment, there's no need to go through it again here. So we actually start this time with the second time round, where the main theme offers a few variations and then leads us into the outro solo section. Now, for the most part, it's also the same as the main theme, but with two important variations. The first variation is this. And then the second variation is how we finish this time around the main theme. So instead of following the usual descending run that ends with the legato triplets like this, we finish it instead with an ascending scale run and a quick tapping sequence like this. For the scale run, you'll want to follow the same consecutive pick stroke ideas that we've applied in other parts of the song, which you should be familiar with by now. And with the tapping sequence, try paying close attention to where your right hand ends up in relation to the strings. As you'll likely know, your right hand acts as a string dampener for the lower strings, stops them from ringing out by themselves. But as you move your hand into a tapping position, it's possible that this will get compromised and the strings will start ringing out, creating lots of noise. So you want to try and move your right hand in a way that keeps the lower strings dampened, possibly using parts of your wrist or your arm, which is what I do. And I also perform the tapping sequence with my middle finger, as it's quite a sudden and fast sequence, so there's not really much time to maneuver the pick somewhere so I can free up my index finger. So then that leads us into the outro solo properly, where we play a sweep picking sequence that starts on the same note where the tapping sequence ends. So that's from the 17th fret on the first string, where we play down and back up through a few C minor arpeggios with some melodic punctuations in between. So let's play through this section now just to give us some context. To begin tackling this section, we want to break it down into three chunks, each with its own sweep picking and melodic variation. So the first chunk will be and the second chunk will be and then the third chunk will be. Now the sweep picking pattern itself makes use of the typical 5-string minor arpeggio that most guitarists will learn when they start getting into sweep picking. So many of you will be familiar with this pattern already, but for those of you who aren't, this is going to be a good introduction into it and also into sweep picking in general. So to really break this pattern down, we're going to look at exercise 6 from your additional exercises folder. Once you've got that open, we'll start the sequence. We start with a downstroke on the 17th fret on the first string, followed by 5 consecutive upstrokes from the 13th fret on the first string, then the 15th fret on the second string, then the 14th fret on the third string, followed by the 15th fret on the fourth string, and the 17th fret on the fifth string. So then we followed the exact same pattern but in reverse, this time using consecutive downstrokes like this. Then we finish this up with an upstroke on the 17th fret on the first string, which allows us to start the whole sequence again on a downstroke. So we end up with everything from top to bottom like this. And what we actually end up with is a sequence that repeats both the top and the bottom notes. So if we play the exercise in full, we'll first do it at half speed and then at full speed. So when practicing this exercise, make sure you lock into that triplet feel and count all the notes in groups of threes when practicing slowly. So like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And also, don't forget that we're applying the principles of economy picking and making use of pick slanting to complement the direction that we're moving the arpeggio in. So once you have the arpeggio down, you'll want to start adding the melodic punctuations in between. In the first chunk, we're simply resolving the arpeggio to the 15th fret on the first string like this. And then in the second chunk, we do the same, but with the addition of a chromatic pull-off sequence from the 15th fret to the 12th fret like this. For this, you want to grab the 15th fret with your forefinger so that you can use all 4 fingers in this pull-off sequence like this. Then in the third chunk, we move our forefinger from the 17th fret to the 20th fret with a semiquaver triplet pattern on that one note like this. Now, the temptation here might be to just tremolo pick this one note, and with distortion and delay and everything else, you'll probably get away with it, to be honest. But really, we want to be aiming for accuracy in our playing to help us improve properly, so try and lock into that semiquaver triplet rhythm. If you are having difficulty with this, you can try a simple rhythm exercise where you start with quavers or eighth notes and work up through each subdivision via quaver triplets, then semiquavers or 16th notes, then semiquaver triplets. So that should sound like this. And one more time. Then, when you put all 3 chunks together, you end up with this. Then we come to the very last section of the entire song that uses a descending scale pattern that I like to call the up-down scale. And the reason for this is due to the way in which the pattern descends in groups of 2 notes that are played in ascending order, basically from low to high. So as you play, it feels like you're moving upwards while simultaneously moving downwards, hence the name up-down scale. So let's have a listen to how this sounds now. So to tackle this, we're going to look at exercise 7 in your additional exercises folder, where we'll break this entire sequence into 3 chunks before it gets to that legato triplet lick that's taken from the main theme. So starting with the first chunk labelled A in the tab, we'll play through that a few times nice and slowly. Now, the trick to watch out for with this chunk is the double upstroke between the 17th fret on the first string and the 18th fret on the second string. Again, it's another example of applying the ideas of economy picking to reduce the amount of movement needed by the right hand and to smooth out the transition between strings. So let's move on to the second chunk, labelled B in the tab. Now in this chunk, you want to pay close attention to the left hand finger positioning and look out for the finger numbers next to the musical notation in the tab. This is mainly for the transition from the second and third string in the first 4 notes of this chunk, where you'll need to switch out your first and third finger with your second and fourth finger, I should say, like this. This is just to make sure that you're aligned in the best way possible for the following sequence of notes. So then we come to the third chunk in the sequence, which sounds like this. Now, the only thing to watch out for in this chunk is the shift in position from the 14th fret down to the 10th fret, and this is just to help you get into position for the final legato triplet run. Now, this shift in position from fret 14 to fret 10 can be a little bit tricky at first, but just practice it over and over again, nice and slowly, until you convert it into muscle memory, which actually applies to all the other chunks in this section as well. So then when you put all 3 chunks together and add the legato triplet run at the end, you get this. And as with most of the sections in this song, remember you want to start off slowly and build up speed gradually. And also pay close attention to the picking directions indicated in the tab. So that concludes this segment and the tutorials for this song. I hope you've had as much fun learning Precipice as I've had making it and putting these tutorials together. I also hope that you've learned plenty from the techniques and concepts that we've looked at, and that you can now take that away and apply it to your own playing. Thank you so much again for your support in buying this pack. It really does mean a great deal to me. But that's me out for now. I look forward to seeing you again in another video soon. Take care.